ਸਪਾਈਸ ਰੇਡੀਓ ਸੁਣ ਰਹੇ ਦੋਸਤੋ, ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋ ਗੁਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਇਹਦੀ ਨਿਊ ਸ਼ੋ ਵਿੱਚ। ਸਾਡੀ ਅੱਜ ਖਾਸ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਐਨੀ ਓਹਾਨਾ ਨਸਲਾਂ ਵਿਰੋਧੀ ਕਾਰਕੁਨ ਵੀ ਹੈ, ਟੀਚਰ ਵੀ ਹੈ। ਅਨੇਕਾਂ ਵਾਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਦੀ ਬੇਬਾਕ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਸਮਾਜ ਤੋਂ ਸੁਣ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹੋ। ਭਲਕੇ ਰੈੱਡ ਡਰੈਸ ਡੇ ਮਨਾਇਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਮੂਲ ਵਾਸੀ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਰਪਿਤ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਲਾਪਤਾ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਕਤਲ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਜਾ ਚੁੱਕੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਕੀ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਮਾਇਨੇ ਨੇ, ਕਿਉਂ ਇਹ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ, ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਮਨਾਉਣਾ ਕਿਉਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ, ਇਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਹੈ ਐਨੀ ਓਹਾਨਾ। ਐਨੀ, ਥੈਂਕਸ ਫॉर joining me.
No, thanks for having me.
So Annie, what is the brief history of Red Dress Day? When did it start and what is it all about?
Yes, so unfortunately in Canada, we've had, concurrent genocides happening, especially against Indigenous peoples. And so what we now know after many, decades, if not well over a century, of Indigenous people fighting for their rights is thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women and Two-Spirit people.
Right.
So in more recent memory, especially in the call for a national inquiry into these, which many governments refused to do. So around 2017, finally an inquiry was launched, and with final reports being produced, clear evidence that this was genocide. So since that time, the color red has a very specific meaning in the spiritual realm in a lot of Indigenous communities. So the idea of a red dress came to be, and so ever since then, and now yes, with May 5th being an official day for this national day, commemorations are held across Turtle Island to truly commemorate, remember, and also continue the fight to resolve these cases and to end the ongoing violence against Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people.
So what is happening tomorrow?
Yeah, so what's going on tomorrow is that you will see in really many communities, school sites. So, for example, I can give two specific areas where people might want to go to. Vancouver City Hall, there will be an event there starting at noon tomorrow. And in Surrey, Bear Creek Park at 3:30, I believe, their event is starting as well. But in many other communities, what you have are Indigenous-led ceremonies and events where people gather, and you'll see red dresses. So if you're driving by tomorrow, you might see red dresses on trees. You might see red dresses in parks and many different institutions. And again, that is to make sure that we don't forget these women. But I think very important, I want to make it clear, this is not a past history. This is ongoing. Indigenous women still face the rate, 12 times more, the risk of being murdered, being kidnapped, facing violence. So this is an ongoing issue. And so really it's about people coming together and speaking these truths, but again, remembering the women that we have lost thus far.
Now, in spite of all these initiatives, Indigenous women continue to go missing, and we still don't have the definite number of the Indigenous women and girls who have been killed until now.
Yeah.
How problematic is that?
It's very problematic, and I think it's indicative of the fact that this is not about, some bad people, right? It's not just about bad men doing bad things. It's a systemic issue. When you look even here in the Lower Mainland, there were recent cases of Indigenous women going missing and the police not investigating properly, finding bodies after the fact, finding, and I'm sorry if that's a trigger warning for folks, but it's a tough issue. Women being found in homes where, they should have been found months ago. So this is a much larger issue of systemic racism in Canada. It's an issue of when you dehumanize a certain group under law, again, the Indian Act and other forms of systemic discrimination, what you end up with is a community constantly under threat, constantly targeted. And so that's what we're seeing. So this is not just about, lock them up or find the people that do this. More importantly, it's that systemic call on the government because from the Truth and Reconciliation, from the National Inquiry on Missing Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls, we still have not implemented everything that needed to be, especially not reform or transformation of policing and other key elements that many people have called for and that we have yet to see.
The federal NDP is asking the Liberal government to recognize this crisis as an emergency. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's true, right? It's a pandemic like any other, right? But I want to see action behind that, right? We want to see teeth behind that. So I think it should be when you have thousands of missing people, when you have a group that faces 12 times the amount of violence or risk of being murdered, absolutely that's a clarion call for action. If it was any other community, people would be up in arms. right? And yet, we only see, we commemorate, we're sad about it, but we don't truly hit hard. I mean, it's really only Indigenous voices and a couple, allies that truly understand what this means to communities. And I think what people are afraid of is that, yes, this connects to residential schools. Yes, this connects to the loss of voting rights, the banning of ceremony, all these other initiatives that we try to erase Indigenous people on Turtle Island. This is part of that genocidal wave. And I think that's hard to swallow for some folks. So the government will need to take a hard look at itself if it is willing to go down this path. Again, absolutely, why not? But if it's just, this is an emergency and then you don't do anything about it, then it's going to be more empty words.
How does this reflect on Canada that claims to be a human rights leader in the world?
Yeah, I think people, we claim that we're better than other countries, right? We're very insidious about our racism, about our systemic oppression. Until very recently, people didn't want to use the word genocide. Actually, I should say there were some politicians that disagreed with the idea that this was genocide. So, the fact of the matter is Canada did a real number on Indigenous peoples, over the last, and when I say Canada, I mean like settlers as well, over the past 500 years as they were occupying these lands. And so this is just, nobody should be shocked by this. This was this is a government that the Nazis looked to, South Africa looked to implement their own varieties of fascism and apartheid. So really, Canada is unfortunately a leader in this, but there are missing similar numbers in the United States, Australia, New Zealand, other countries as well. But I think in Canada, thankful to the Indigenous warriors rising up and really making sure that no one forgets about this.
Now, where can people learn more about it and get involved?
Yeah, I encourage people to read the national inquiry into this. They even have executive summaries. It's not hard to Google. The Red Women Rising report that was done by the Downtown Eastside Women's Center. And again, my big one, and I've told students this and fellow colleagues, tomorrow is a Pro D Day in Surrey, and we'll be leading some workshops on this. Go out to one of the events. You will see community members that are very engaged in the education and the fight for justice for these women. And so I really encourage people, take 2 hours out of your day, attend an event. There are many across the province, across Canada. And I really want people to spend time listening and bearing witness. But again, if you just simply Google National Inquiry into MMIWG2S, many accounts will come up that you can look at.
Certainly. Well, and it was nice talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything I didn't ask you before I let you go?
Yeah, just if we truly care about our women, our girls, our communities, we say these things. You should never qualify that with a certain culture, right? So you don't have to be Indigenous to care about this issue. I want each and every person to realize that these lands are not safe for everybody, and we cannot claim to be a safe space for anyone as long as one group continues to be targeted in this way by our systems and our institutions.
Absolutely. Talk to you again, Annie. Take care. Bye for now.
Thank you very much. Bye.
ਦੋਸਤੋ ਆ ਸੀ ਐਨੀ ਹੋਣਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਨਸਲਾਂ ਵਿਰੋਧੀ ਕਾਰਕੁਨ ਵੀ ਹੈ, ਟੀਚਰ ਵੀ ਹੈ, ਬਲਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰੈੱਡ ਡਸਟ ਡੇ ਮਨਾਇਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਤਹਿਤ ਪੂਰੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਔਰ BC ਵਿੱਚ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ 'ਤੇ ਵੇਖਾਂਗੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਲਾਲ ਰੰਗ ਦੀਆਂ ਪੋਸ਼ਾਕਾਂ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਮੂਲ ਵਾਸੀ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਇਕਮੁੱਠਤਾ ਪ੍ਰਗਟਾਉਣਗੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਲਾਪਤਾ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਕਤਲ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਜਾ ਚੁੱਕੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਜਾਂ ਥਾਂ ਥਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਲਾਲ ਰੰਗ ਦੀਆਂ ਪੋਸ਼ਾਕਾਂ ਲਮਕਾਈਆਂ ਜਾਣਗੀਆਂ ਰੁੱਖਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇੱਧਰ ਉੱਧਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਦੀ ਯਾਦ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਔਰ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਐਨੀ ਹੋਣਾ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ NDP ਦੀ ਮੰਗ ਹੈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹ ਖੁਦ NDP ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੀ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਉਸਦੀ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਸੀ ਇੱਕ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਸੋ ਉਸਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ NDP ਦੀ ਮੰਗ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਪੂਰੇ ਸੰਕਟ ਨੂੰ ਐਮਰਜੈਂਸੀ ਐਲਾਨਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ। ਉਹ ਸਿਰਫ ਕਹਿ ਦੇਣਾ ਕਾਫੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਐਕਸ਼ਨ ਵੀ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ। ਗੱਲਾਂ ਮੌਤਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੋ ਗਈਆਂ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਸੀ ਸਾਰੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਐਨੀ ਹੋਣਾ ਦੀ ਰੈੱਡ ਡਰੈਸ ਡੇ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਸੀ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ। ਮੇਰੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਹੁਣ ਹੋਵੇਗੀ ਐਤਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਸੰਡੇ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਵਿੱਚ। ਆਗੇ ਦਾ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ। ਹੈਵ ਅ ਗੁੱਡ ਨਾਈਟ।